Hello everyone and welcome to another video from Optimal Ninja. Today's video focuses on using trend lines to find simple entries with Optimal Ninja Quartz, and in particular we're going to look at short entries as it complements the last video on understanding algo signals in sell-offs. So if you haven't already done so, I advise watching that video first. The session we're looking at is Friday, May 31st, 2024, and we're some 15 minutes into the US equities session. That's these bars here. As usual, there's nothing special about this session. The principles I'm outlining are applicable every day if you use a little common sense and have some patience to wait for the entries. Now, if you watched my videos before, you'll know that I am a big fan of constructing a narrative of the market. That is, building a story to describe where price was, where price is now, and how it got there. Now, this is the single biggest tip I can give to any discretionary trader. If you can learn to construct even just a reasonably accurate mental model of the market, you will always be able to deconstruct the context, and that skill is worth more than any indicator. So what's our simple narrative of the market so far? Well, as you can see, we have a broad uptrend from the European morning lows, and we've just pulled back to 52.62, which is possible support, and also into this possible rising trend line. I say possible trend line because, of course, we really need 3 points to draw a line, but since it's about 3 hours between these points, what happens on the next touch is likely to be highly significant. In fact, if you switch to a 15-minute chart, you can clearly see the importance of this line. Pretty much everyone is going to be interested in what happens there next. So back to our chart. Given what I've just said, it's perhaps unsurprising that we have 2 algo plots fire off on that level, so on that basis you could make a case for buying there. On the other hand, we have these 2 algo plots on the highs here, and we have a failed test of those levels with this upper tail, which is a bearish sign. So you could say we currently have roughly equal near-term forces here. So if we go long, how does this narrative help us plan the trade? Well, if the following bar is down, that's going to be a major trend line failure, and you'd want to exit immediately. And if the next bar is up, you'd probably want to hold for 24 ticks profit back to these highs, as we would have had major buying on the trend line. Now, this is the key advantage of learning to build a narrative. It's much simpler to plan your exits because you're able to define success and failure in advance. So many traders sit like rabbits in the headlights when their trades go against them because they're not able to articulate to themselves what the price move represents in the wider context. But let's see what happened. The trend line did indeed break, so if you'd taken that long, you'd exit there straight away. On the following bar, we have a breakout pullback failure to the trend line. That's the upper tail here, and that failure is itself a further bearish signal. You'll also note that we have a shift in signal to red with Smart Trend Finder, so all these factors mean that the narrative has shifted firmly to bearish, so we're only looking for short signals from now on. But as always, we don't just short because we have a red bar. We're always looking to enter on a discount. In any case, the close of this bar would be a poor place to short because it closes on the swing low and also has an algo plot near the lows, which means it's highly likely that we'll have a bounce there. So we bide our time and wait for a pullback. The first possibility was the pullback to the falling micro trend line here. That would have got you about 10 ticks discount, but often it's psychologically difficult to short on those deep pullbacks as there's no obvious resistance other than the trend line. Better in my view is to wait for the first up bar in order to short. That's the close of this bar, which not only closes very near to the trend line, but is also a breakout pullback to the prior swing low, which is now likely resistance. So that's really a great entry. I targeted 24 ticks on that trade, but given the highly bearish context, you could keep that trade open for a much bigger target if you don't mind holding through inevitable pullbacks. In case anyone is wondering, we wouldn't short the close of this up bar because although it closes on a downtrend line, we'd be shorting into these 2 algo plots, which is just too risky. But if you had shorted there when price came down and found a third algo level, you would definitely want to exit your short there. This, however, is a decent short. We have an up bar which closes on the falling micro trend line, and it's also a breakout pullback to the lower quarter line. You might also note that the wider downtrend line that describes this entire down move is also only about a bar away, and it's likely that that's going to generate short interest if it's touched, which gives us greater confidence on this trade. And a few bars later, you can see that the wider trend line was indeed a good place to short, as we had immediate selling on the touch. And this tail was itself a breakout pullback to this congestion area, so entering on the trend line touch was a great short entry with a stop above the congestion zone. Alternatively, if you'd missed that entry, you could enter on the close of the bar. As you know, it's much better to seek value on entries, but given the absence of algo plots on the lows here, there's no obvious demand at these levels, so the market probably has further to fall. So you could take that as a short. Possibly use a half bar stop if the market comes back. That would give a good risk-reward ratio. And at this point, I will conclude. Just a reminder, for a limited time, all subscriptions to Optimal Ninja Quartz come with a free 1-to-1 30-minute coaching session with me, Richard, where we can discuss setups, have a look at some of your trades, or have a Q&A session. For more details, head over to our website at optimalninja.com, and as always, all the best with your trading.